Okay, today we're going to be decoding the movie Wreck-It Ralph. Yes, the movie Wreck-It Ralph is all about us so-called black folk here in America and how we are actually the rightful rulers of this country. This is our land, and all we have to do is stand up and the game is over. All right, let's get into it. First things first is we need to establish that Wreck-It Ralph and Vanellope are both the so-called black man and woman. Let's start with taking a look at how everyone else in their games treat them.
It's Ralph! Right for party! Hide the stemware! Get rid of him, Felix!
Hide the stemware is a microaggression which stems from the myth that black people steal. It is akin to a white woman clutching her purse or crossing the street when she sees a black guy.
There's no way that I am racing with a glitch.
Our boys aren't playing for some coach coon!
Okay, let's look at their relationship with the authorities.
Step aside, sir. Random security check.
Random my behind. You always stop me.
I'm just a surge protector doing my job, sir.
Now we got him. Oh, good. The cops. She went that way! What's the... Ow! Dad! What are you doing? What's the... Ow! Dad! What are you doing?
So let's check out where both Vanellope and Ralph live. They have very similar living situations.
When I say a dump, I don't mean like a shabby place. I mean an actual dump. Where the garbage goes and a bunch of bricks and smashed building parts. That's what I call home.
Welcome to my home. I sleep in these candy wrappers. I bundle myself up like a little homeless lady.
By yourself? With all this garbage around you?
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone here says I'm just a mistake and that I wasn't even supposed to exist. What do you expect?
So on top of the police brutality, the fact that they live in the ghetto, and everybody else in society treats them like crap, Ralph and Vanellope are the villains of the game. Now, I've mentioned this many times before that in these movies, they always make us so-called black people the villains. I mean, ask the eldest person in your family, if they're from America and the South, what kind of people were here when they were growing up, and they will tell you there was only black and white. And the secret is that black folks were actually here first, and the newcomers are actually the colonists, the so-called white people, meaning that we have been colonized by a foreign entity. And through that colonization, we have left our own institutions to join and assimilate into their institutions. We just forgot that we are our own separate nation. And through that, we no longer own anything. I mean, we don't own our own TV stations, radio stations. We have zero media outlet right now. And think about it. If now everything that we see on the TV is coming from the colonists' perspective, and they always paint us to be the villain, and we are rooting for the heroes, then we find ourselves to be in a situation where we're rooting against ourselves.
In the case of an American Negro, it comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. That the Indians were you.
There's a scene in the movie where Ralph goes to a Bad Anon meeting. Now, these Bad Anon meetings are like a support group for all of the other villains from these arcade games. Now, if you don't believe me that they always make the villains so-called black people, let's take a closer look at the villains that they highlighted in this meeting. Okay, let's check it out. So the first villain we're going to take a look at is Zangief. Do not be confused by the fact that he has pale skin. When we look up the definition of Zangief, it says, it is derived from the Persian word Zangi, meaning dark-skinned or a Negro. When you look up the word Zangi, it does indeed say that it means nigger. So yes, upon closer inspection, this villain, Zangief, represents the so-called black people because his name literally means nigger. Now, while we're on the topic of the N-word, did you guys know that according to the Oxford English Dictionary, definition 3A for nigger, it says that in early U.S. history, when they were talking about niggers, they were actually talking about the American Indians.
Do you know who you are?
In his own land, in his own land, in his own land.
For the second villain, they have chosen to highlight a zombie. Now, in previous decodes, we've already established that zombies represent so-called black people. In fact, those Disney movies, Zombies 1 and 2, are all about so-called black people. I mean, goodness, the whole integration story, the fact that the zombies were really good at sports. There was so many things that made the zombies so-called black people, including the fact that they can dance.
How's it better to have zombies at prom? Our dance game's strong. What? Zombie
So not only are zombies so-called black people, but they have this zombie carrying these hatchets. In fact, they even mention the hatchets before this scene is over. Let's check that out.
Hey, zombie, don't forget your hatchet. There you go.
We used to call them tomahawks. And of course, that's in reference to the peace ceremony, which is burying the hatchet. And that's in American Indian tradition.
Jump on it! APACHE! Jump on it! Jump on it! Unga, 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 unga.
The magnificent suits we so enjoy. For the past several Fat Tuesdays, we've had the honor of covering the 9th Ward Black Hatchet tribe. They're amongst the prettiest, but the pandemic has affected them as well.
It's affecting us the same way it's affecting most of America. I mean, a lot of us are out of work, dealing with the self-quarantine and everything.
Now, this is what a true indigenous American looks like. This is Big Chief Dowie Robert from the 9th Ward Black Hatchet tribe. Now, we have just forgotten that hatchets have anything to do with us, but that was the tool that we used. We used it for hunting. We used it as a weapon. So the other thing I wanted us to note was that their tribe is called the 9th Ward Black Hatchet tribe. Did you know that according to the Colorado Encyclopedia, the United States government declared through the Indian Appropriations Act of 1871 that the true indigenous people of America were to become wards of the United States government. This act also paved the way for other laws that granted the federal government increased power over the land and lives of indigenous people. So go back and check your ancestors' records. Check the census records. See if they were so-called Negro or colored people living in wards. If so, those are the indigenous people of America. Here is the 5th Ward of West Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Here is the 12th census, the 6th Ward of Leavenworth, Kansas. Mind you, Schedule number 1, those Schedule 1 populations are for free people. And lastly, this is Henrico County, Virginia, Clay Ward. Yes, we became wards of the state, wards of the government after 1871. So next is Satine. So Ralph turns around and calls him Satan, and he corrects him and says, it's Satine, actually. So I got really curious. So when I researched Satine, I first noticed that it's from the language family Afroasiatic, Semitic, which could also be identifiers for so-called black people. And it literally means silk or satin. Now that's significant because silk was among the most notable materials used in Moorish clothing. So now I hope it's very, very clear that Ralph and Penelope are so-called black people. They live in the ghetto, everyone treats them like crap, they're subjected by the authorities, and Ralph goes to a Badanon meeting with other villains that are obviously so-called black as well, symbolically. We should all be very clear on who we are talking about. I mentioned in the beginning of this decode that this movie also proves that we are the rightful rulers and that this is our land. So let's get into that part of the decode now. After this Badanon meeting, Ralph and the other villains leave through these power cords and go into this power strip, these outlets, and into what they call in this movie the Game Central Station, which is fashioned after Grand Central Station. And as soon as they enter into Game Central Station, they zero in on this outlet. Now, this outlet was so symbolic. Outlets represent power, represents source. Every outlet has a feminine and masculine piece, and that represents creation. Now, this outlet says USA, right? So they're giving us an area, a place, what they're talking about. But in even bigger lettering, it has the word more in what could be interpreted to be like a scroll. Now, they're letting us know who the true owners of America are, right? The Moors, if you will. Now, they also have a hieroglyph, and that's also showing us that ancient America has more of a Negro origin than they want to ever let us know about. Now, on top of all of this, after they show us this outlet with the words more in the United States and this hieroglyph, the frame pans over. Now listen closely to the very next words that are spoken. Yes, you heard that right. All aboard the Soul Train. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Soul Train was a show that was started in the 1970s. It is specifically an American Negro show. So that was Disney's way of letting us know, yes, the connection between Moors and America. That culture is something that we are very, very familiar with. We are the soul people. We are the soul of America. And this is our country. Now you have to ask yourself, why is Disney putting this in this movie? Why would they put those words more? Why are they putting this hieroglyph? What does this have to do with anything? And why, after showing us all this imagery and symbolism, would the very next words be all aboard the Soul Train of all things? Shall we hear it one more time? All aboard the Soul Train. All we have to do is stand up, and their game is over. So let's take a look at the first example of this.
Yo, everybody!
Okay, now that part is very, very symbolic, okay? Because when he finally gets a chance to come into the party, he stands up, his head breaks through the ceiling, and that same ceiling falls and hits the oppressor, and he dies. All we have to do is stand up. I'm going to play it for you guys again as soon as he gets the chance to come into the party. And this is why they never want us to come to the party. Okay? That's why they never wanted to open any doors for Negroes.
Have a slice, would you?
Yo, everybody!
Okay, according to prophecy in biblical text, so the last will be first and the first last, meaning that those who are in the bottom of society will rise to the top, and those who have been ruling over us will be again at the bottom of society. Now, this is shown in this movie and other Disney movies. Let's check that out.
You see, Ralph, there's no room for you up here.
Well, what about this? We can make room. Here, we can take turns. Easy.
How about...
Felix needs to be on the roof because he's about to get his medal.
Well, then how about we just take that medal and give it to Ralph for once. Would that be the end of the world, Gene?
Would that be the end of the world, Gene? So remember that. He says, if Ralph, the so-called black man, finally gets the medal, if he gets this medal, would that be the end of the world? And yes, when he goes and he decides to stand up and get a medal so he can live in the penthouse and he doesn't have to live on the bottom of society for another 30 years, when he stands up, the world ends for the people who treated him poorly. Because Ralph goes and leaves the game to get a medal, the game does not operate anymore. And they decide to pull the plug on his game, which means that it's game over.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of order.
Sweet mercy! Without Ralph, we're doomed!
They're gonna pull our plug!
Now, in this movie, when a game's plug is pulled, the characters from the game become homeless. Now, that's speaking to the fact that because we are the actual landlords of this country, when we stand up and take our rightful place, we will have the power to evict the foreigners. Now, do not worry. Do not be alarmed. Like I said before, because they always paint us as the villain and them as the heroes, not only do we root against ourselves, but when it's time for us to be benefited, for us to be redeemed, if we're looking at it from their perspective, they will make it seem like it's a scary thing or that it's bad. But do not worry. This might be the end of their world, but for us, we're good. Now check out this next scene. Because Ralph now has stood up, everyone else, all the Nicelanders, have cleared out, and he is now given the keys to the penthouse.
Where is everybody?
They're gone. The place is yours, Ralph. Enjoy.
Because everything is over now, he realizes that this medal that he's been chasing, which symbolizes the money, has no value. He throws it, and it hits the glass of the arcade game. And the out of order sign that they were using to create the blood moon effect slips away, and he is able to see Vanellope's picture on the side of her arcade game. Yes, the same Vanellope who's not allowed to race, the same one that everyone else treats like crap.
I mean, everyone here says I'm just a mistake and that I wasn't even supposed to exist.
Yes, that one. She is actually the one on the side of the game. Now, the same goes for us. We have been treated very poorly in this country, but the further you look back, you will see our images. We are not glitches, and we are supposed to be here. Now, when Ralph realizes that she is on the side of her game, he has some questions too.
Explain something to me. If Vanellope was never meant to exist, then why is her picture on the side of the game console?
I'll take it to my grave.
Fair enough.
He said he will take it to his grave. Now listen up, so-called black people in America. Our true identity is a huge secret. A lot of people are making big money off of us being asleep, and they have sworn themselves to secrecy. They have taken oaths to not tell us who we are and that we are actually the indigenous people of this country and the Most High's true chosen people.
Not enough yet?
Okay, I'll talk. Vanellope was a racer until King Candy tried to delete her code.
Tried to delete her code? So that's why she's a glitch.
So now when they're talking about how King Candy tried to delete her code, that could be like racial reclassification and paper genocide, where on paper they erased our identity. In 1924, there was the Act to Preserve Racial Integrity, which turned all of the Indians into colored people. Yes, the same colored people that we've been talking about this whole video. You know, the soul people, the soul of America. Yes, we are the indigenous people. They started to label us colored, and way even before the Racial Integrity Act that they've been doing that. But yes, that's what they're talking about, deleting her code.
Why is he doing this to her?
I don't know.
Suit yourself.
No, I swear I don't know. He literally locked up our memories, and I cannot remember. Nobody can. But I do know this. He'll do anything to keep her from racing, because if she crosses the finish line, the game will reset, and she won't be a glitch anymore.
What's with all the magic sparkles?
Now I remember. All hail the rightful ruler of Sugar Rush, Princess Vanellope.
I remember, she's our princess. Oh, that's right. We are so sorry about the way we treated you.
Yeah, those were jokes.
I was just doing what Taffeta told me to do.
Tut. As your merciful princess, I hereby decree that everyone who was ever mean to me shall be executed.
What? No, please.
I don't want to die.
I'm just kidding.
You are?
Stop crying, Taffeta.
I'm trying, but I won't stop.
Wreck-It Ralph is a giant of a man, 9 feet tall with really big hands, living in a stump on his very own land. Living in a stump on his very own land.
In his own land. In his own land. In his own land.
Yes, you heard that right. Ralph, the one who's been beaten by the police, the one who lives in the ghetto, the one who has to look at all the rest of the nations live it up in the high-rise apartments and enjoy all the luxuries of life and get their medals. He is actually the landowner. Okay? And that goes the same for us. That's the reason why they treat us poorly. That's the reason why we're at the bottom of society. This is the reason why we've been put into ghettos. This is the reason why the police mess with us. Is because we are actually the indigenous people of America. And that is how they subject and usurp people.
Until his world went crazy. He was minding his own business on the day they came. They showed a piece of paper saying eminent domain. They showed a piece of paper saying eminent domain.
Eminent domain is a huge keyword. That is literally the policy that the government used to steal the American Indians' land. Let's not forget, the American Indians were called niggas, okay? They are talking about us so-called black folk, all right? Eminent domain is the power of the government to take land for public use based on the concept of vacuum domicilium, meaning literally nobody home. It was black, so-called black people who lost all of the land. Did you guys know that? I mean, here's an article from history.com. It says in 1912, this Georgia county drove out every black resident. Now, these were so-called white people, terrifying, lynching our ancestors to the point where they had to leave their homes behind. Okay, this happened all over. It was us they took the land from. There's only one American history. And this is it. 1 million black families in the South have lost their farms. Do you guys know that there's land that we can reclaim? The land that our ancestors fought and died for? We have always been here. This movie is telling us a lot. Black people's land was stolen. This is from the New York Times. It happened to us.
They built an apartment building saying progress was to blame.
Making progress, that sounds great. But what's the price we have to pay?
He got mad and he turned bad.
He turned bad? No, we're good people. I mean, if somebody came to your home, took everything from you, and subjected you under the most savage circumstances, then I would guess that you would want to wreck it too. Do not be ashamed of tearing down this system. We are never supposed to respect or serve this system. We are supposed to be free. And I think we just forgot what we are fighting for. But don't worry. Yes, we are going to take our land back, our identity back, our heritage back, and our dignity back. Do not allow anyone disrespect you in your own home. In fact, once you know who you truly are, you'll start to look at the rest of these nations like this.
Why is he here? He's just here for a slice of cake.
And I'm a big part of the game, technically speaking. Why are you here, Gene?
So that is the end of part 1 of the Wreck-It Ralph Decode. I will be coming back with a part 2 discussing more about the relationship between the so-called black man and black woman, other ways that we can come together, uplift each other so we can rise up and reclaim our thrones and our titles. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please, give a like, subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell so you won't miss part 2 of the Wreck-It Ralph Decode and more. Also, don't forget to research your own ancestry and share this message. The more eyes that are open, the easier it will be for us to come together, organize, and rise up. All right, you guys, till next time, I'll talk to you soon. Much, much love from the bottom of my heart. All right,